Hi everyone, and welcome to the Brief Earth Creates YouTube channel. This month I decided to join a group called Hoppin in a monthly blog hop, and the theme for this month is to case yourself. Case stands for copy and share everything. So basically I'm going to copy a card that I made previously and reshare it. And so this month I am resharing a card that I made long time ago featuring the Little Town Life bonus digital stamp from Kindred Stamps. It was before I owned any metal dies or, really knew how to heat emboss, so I'm really excited to remake this card.
So first we're going to start by coloring up the digital image. I'm using my Copic markers to color her. I'm starting with E⁻⁻⁻ to put down a base coat of her skin. Next I'm moving on to E⁻⁴, my darkest shade. And I'm just going to create the shadow areas on her face and on her hands and on her neck with that E⁻⁴, just going along the outside of her face. And then I'm coming in with E11 and just tracing over those shadow areas. Adding a little bit more shadow on her feet. And now I'm moving on to E21. Once again, extending that shadow area into the highlight space. Make sure to blend those colors nicely. And then I'm moving on to my primary color of E00. And I'm spreading that color out a little bit more on her face using the flicking technique. Then I'm just going to come in and blend out the colors on her hands and her feet and her neck. Now I'm moving on to the E⁻⁻⁻, filling in more of that highlight area. And then I'm coming in with my last color, and then I'm coming in with my E22, create some rosy pinkness in her cheeks. And now I'm coming in with E20 to blend that out into the skin tone. And then I'm going in one more time with all the colors, starting with the E11. Just redefining those shadow areas. And then I'm coming in with E21. Sorry about my head popping in there every once in a while. And then I'm coming in to blend all this coloring out with the E⁻⁻⁻. And I'm using R22 on her lips. And now I'm going to move on to coloring her hair. And I'm using E30 to put down a base coat of her hair, because I want it to be kind of a lighter brown. And so I'm coming in with one of my darker shades of E37 and just tracing along the predefined lines in her hair where her hair parts in the front of her ponytail. Just continuing to trace right along those predefined lines. Now I'm moving on to E35. Just tracing along those shadow lines again, but extending color a little bit more. I really like this Digi because her hair is really simple to color. Doesn't really require too much flicking or technique. And now I'm coming in with E33. And then coming in with E31 to kind of blend those colors all out. And again with E30. And then I'm going to come in one more time with those colors, but I'm going to start with a darker tone of E39 and trace, just once again, tracing along those shadow lines. Make sure to leave a little bit of a highlight space within her ponytail so that people can see that the ponytail curls within itself. Okay, now I'm moving back to the E37. I'm going to work my way back down to the lighter colors. Now I'm working with E35. I love how her hair just naturally parts in the center of her ponytail. Coming in with E33. And then blending it all out with E31. Now we're going to move on to the shoes and the shadow areas on her white shirt and her apron. And so I'm coming in with C3. I'm using cool grays for this. I'm going to use a little bit of the flicking technique on her apron so it looks like it's kind of a curved around her body. And I'm going to blend that in with C1. Now I'm moving on to her shoes, and I'm starting with C7, and then I'm moving on to C5, and then blending that out with C3. Now I'm moving on to the light blue parts of her dress and her bow in her hair. And I'm coming in with B000 to add the base coat. Just make sure that you don't go into the white areas. And now I'm coming in with B26 as my darkest color. I'm going to color the book blue because that's what I did previously. Coming in, creating some shadow lines on her bow and on the book and on her outfit. And now I'm going to blend those in with B24. Once again, kind of creating a curved look on her dress. And now I'm coming in with B21. And I'm going to blend that all out with B000. Okay, now we're moving on to creating the cloudy sky background. And so I'm just going to start by ink blending with Distress Oxide ink, the Broken China Distress Oxide ink. And I'm just going to create a nice flat layer of that color over the whole entire card front. And I'm going to use the Distress Sprayer to kind of create a water resisting effect to get a little bit more texture into the clouds. And now I'm using a cloud stencil the same cloud stencil that I used previously. It's retired now, but with some white pigment ink to create the clouds for in the background. Now I'm going to carefully peel the stencil off of the card background. And I'm going to let those clouds dry. I'm going to set those clouds aside and dry. Now we're going to work on creating the hillside borders. And so I used the stitched hillside die cuts to die cut 2 layers of the hillside. And I went ahead and I previously heat embossed the sentiment and the little dandelion parts that are flying away. And now I'm coming in with some Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink to create a shadow layered look on the hillsides. I want to add a little bit more color to the bottom half, or the back half of the Hillside Borders so that you can see the shading behind the front layer. And once I'm finished with the shading, I use a baby wipe to kind of wipe away the color on top of the heat embossed resisting areas. So now we're going to finish the layout of the card. I used the Forest Scene Craft die from Kindred Stamps to create a double layer of kind of a forest tree background. And I'm going to glue that down with some liquid adhesive. And I traced with a pencil the lines for the hillside die so that I knew kind of where to place the forest scene towards the middle of the card background. And now I'm going to place down the hillside backgrounds. I used some foam tape to add some dimension behind the front hillside layer. And then I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to glue down the back layer. And lastly, we're going to add in our little digi image and used some liquid adhesive to glue her down. And there you have it. There's our card. Thank you once again for joining me in crafting today. Feel free to check out more details on the blog post that I link below. Hope you come back soon for more crafty inspiration.